David lived in a quiet village. He was known by everyone because he was a kind, hardworking man. David worked as a carpenter. He built houses for the people in the village. His life seemed peaceful and happy. He had a small family, his wife, Clara, and their 2 children, Tom and Lily. They lived in a small house on the edge of the village. David was always friendly and willing to help others. The people in the village liked him very much. But David had a secret. It was a big secret that no one knew. He was married to 2 women, but neither of them knew about the other. His first wife, Clara, was a gentle and caring woman. They had met when they were both young. They quickly fell in love and got married. Clara trusted David completely. She was happy with her life and loved him deeply. They had 2 children together, Tom and Lily, and their family life seemed perfect. Clara didn't know that David had another wife. David's second wife was Sarah. He had met Sarah years after he married Clara. Sarah was very different from Clara. She was strong, independent, and worked as a teacher at the local school. David had met Sarah when he was repairing the roof of the school. They became friends, and soon their friendship grew into something more. They fell in love with each other. David didn't tell Sarah that he was already married to Clara. He married Sarah secretly. Sarah lived in a large house in a different part of the village. She had no idea that David was married to Clara. David lived a double life. He would spend weekdays with Clara and weekends with Sarah. He was careful not to let either woman find out about the other. He made sure that when one wife was busy, he would spend time with the other wife. David thought he could keep his secret forever. For a long time, it seemed that everything was fine, but over time, things began to change. Clara and Sarah started to notice strange things. Clara sometimes wondered why David was away on weekends. Sarah also asked why David didn't visit her during the week. But David always had a good explanation. He would say that he was busy with work or had other things to do. Clara and Sarah trusted him and didn't think much about it. However, they both began to feel something was wrong, but they didn't know what it was. The more time passed, the more they started to feel uneasy. David's 2 families were living in the same village, but they didn't know about each other. David kept everything a secret. He was careful with his time and made sure that no one would ever find out the truth. He loved both Clara and Sarah, but he never told either of them about the other. His life seemed perfect on the outside, but inside, it was full of lies. David thought he could keep this secret forever. He thought that if he was careful and smart, no one would ever find out. But life has a way of revealing the truth. David didn't know that one day, his 2 wives would meet, and everything would change. But for now, he lived his life the way he always had. He spent time with Clara during the week, and with Sarah on weekends. He kept his secret, thinking it was safe. But the truth has a way of coming to light, no matter how hard we try to hide it. David had no idea that his double life would soon be discovered. As time went on, Clara and Sarah began to notice some strange things. They started feeling that something was wrong, but they couldn't understand what it was. Both women loved David, and they trusted him, but small things made them feel uneasy. Clara, his first wife, started to notice that David would often leave on weekends. He would say that he had work to do or that he was busy with other things. Clara didn't think much about it at first. She trusted David completely and believed him when he gave her excuses. However, as time went by, she began to wonder. Why was he gone so much on weekends? Where did he go? Clara tried to brush away her doubts, but they lingered in her mind. She loved David, but something didn't feel right. Sarah, his second wife, also began to notice strange things. She would sometimes wonder why David didn't visit her during the week. He would only come to see her on the weekends, and even then, he seemed distracted. She asked him why he didn't visit more often, but David always had an explanation. He would tell her that he was busy with work or that he had to take care of things with his family. Sarah tried not to question him, but she felt something was off. She trusted him, but her growing feelings of doubt made her uncomfortable. Clara and Sarah had no idea that they were both married to the same man. They lived in different parts of the village, and David had carefully kept his two families apart. But both women were beginning to feel the weight of something hidden. They were unsure what it was, but the feeling that something was wrong grew stronger with each passing day. One day, Clara heard from a friend that Sarah was hosting an event at the school. Clara had never met Sarah in person, but she had heard her name before. Clara felt nervous, but she decided to visit Sarah. She told her children that she was going to visit a friend and would be back soon. Clara thought it would be a good opportunity to meet the woman who seemed to be important to David. She didn't know what to expect, but she was curious. When Clara arrived at Sarah's house, her heart raced with nervousness. She had no idea what would happen next. Sarah opened the door, and for a moment, both women stood there in silence, staring at each other. They had never met before, but they felt a strange connection. Clara smiled nervously and introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Clara, a friend of David's wife," she said. Sarah looked confused for a moment, but then smiled and said, "I'm Sarah, I'm married to David." Clara's heart stopped. She felt like she couldn't breathe. "What did you say?" Clara asked, her voice shaking. "You're married to David?" Sarah nodded, looking surprised. "Yes, I've been married to David for years. Is something wrong?" she asked. Clara could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had been married to David for years, and now she was standing in front of the woman who was also his wife. "I'm his wife too," Clara whispered, tears starting to fill her eyes. "I've been married to him for years, but he never told me about you." Sarah's face went pale as she processed Clara's words. "What do you mean you're his wife?" she asked, her voice trembling. Clara nodded. "We have 2 children together, Tom and Lily, but I had no idea about you," she said, her voice breaking. The 2 women stood there in shock. The silence between them felt heavy, as if time had stopped. Sarah slowly sank into a chair, her hands shaking. "But he said he was faithful to me." "He never mentioned you," she said, barely able to speak. Clara shook her head, trying to make sense of everything. "I can't believe this. I trusted him with everything, and he lied to both of us," she said. For hours, the 2 women talked. They shared their stories of their lives with David. They discovered that they had been living in the same village all these years, never knowing about each other. They both loved David deeply, but now they realized that their love had been built on lies. They were heartbroken and felt betrayed. Neither of them knew what to do next, but they knew they had to confront David. "We need to talk to him," Clara said, standing up. "We need to know the truth." "He can't keep lying to us?" Sarah nodded, her voice filled with sadness. "Yes, we need to talk to him. He can't keep doing this," she agreed. Both women knew that their lives were about to change forever. The man they loved had lied to them, and the truth had come to light. They had to face the consequences of his actions. Neither Clara nor Sarah knew what would happen next, but they were determined to find out the truth from David. That evening, David returned from his business trip, unaware of what had happened while he was gone. When he walked into the house, he was shocked to see both Clara and Sarah sitting together. His heart skipped a beat, and he froze. It was clear that something was wrong, but David had no idea what was about to happen. "What is this?" David asked, looking confused. He didn't know why both women were there. He had never imagined that his 2 wives would ever meet. Clara and Sarah stood up together. They both looked at David with serious expressions on their faces. Clara spoke first, her voice calm but filled with pain. "David, we know everything," she said quietly. "We know about each other." David's face went pale. He had never imagined that this moment would come. He had always tried to keep his 2 lives separate, but now the truth was out. He didn't know what to say. His heart was pounding, and he felt trapped. Sarah spoke next, her voice soft but full of emotion. "How could you do this to us?" she asked. "How could you lie to both of us all these years?" She looked at David with sadness in her eyes. "I trusted you, we both did." David opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He didn't know how to explain himself. How could he explain the lies he had told? How could he make sense of everything he had done? His thoughts were racing, and he felt like he was suffocating under the weight of his mistakes. "I didn't mean for this to happen," David said finally, his voice shaking. "I never wanted to hurt either of you. I loved you both." He felt his eyes start to fill with tears. "I never meant to lie. I don't know what happened. It just got out of control." Clara shook her head. "You didn't love us enough to be honest with us," she said, her voice breaking. "You kept us in the dark. You kept us from knowing the truth. All this time, you were living a lie." David's heart sank. He knew she was right. He had betrayed both of them, and there was no excuse for what he had done. He had always believed that he could handle both relationships, that he could keep everything hidden. But now, everything had fallen apart. "I'm so sorry," David whispered, his voice full of regret. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." But Clara wasn't ready to forgive him. "Sorry isn't enough," she said, her voice cold and firm. "You've hurt both of us. You've lied to us, made us believe we were the only ones. And now you expect us to just forgive you." Sarah, too, was struggling to hold back her tears. "How could you do this to us?" She repeated, "We loved you. We trusted you. And you lied to us for years." David didn't know what to say. He could see the pain in their eyes, and he knew there was nothing he could do to take away the hurt he had caused. He wanted to fix everything, but he knew it was too late. The damage had been done. After hours of talking, of crying, of trying to make sense of everything, it became clear that there was no way to fix the mess he had made. Clara and Sarah couldn't forgive him. They both needed time to heal, but David knew that nothing would ever be the same again. That night, Clara and Sarah left. They didn't stay with David, not even for one more night. They both felt broken and betrayed, and they couldn't bear to stay with the man who had lied to them both. As they walked out of the door, David felt his world shatter around him. He stood there alone, feeling the weight of his mistakes. He had lost both women, the two people he loved most. He had thought he could love them both at the same time, but now he understood that love built on lies could never last. The guilt he felt was overwhelming. He had made a terrible mistake, and now he was left with nothing. David spent the next few weeks trying to fix things, trying to make up for what he had done. He begged Clara and Sarah to forgive him, but they both told him it was too late. They couldn't trust him anymore. They couldn't go back to the way things were. David tried to rebuild his life, but it wasn't easy. He had lost the trust of the two women he loved, and no matter how hard he tried, he knew that he couldn't undo the hurt he had caused. He learned the hard way that lies always come to light, and when they do, they can destroy everything. In the end, David was left alone. He had once believed that he could live two lives, but he had learned the painful truth. You can't build a life on lies. You can't have love when there is no honesty. And David knew now that the truth, no matter how painful, was the only way to find real happiness. But for him, it was too late. The damage had been done, and there was no going back. In the end, David's life was shattered by the lies he had told. He had spent years trying to live two separate lives, thinking he could keep his secret hidden forever. But the truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how hard we try to hide it. David lost both Clara and Sarah, the two women he loved, and he was left with nothing but regret and loneliness. He realized that the love he thought he could balance was built on lies, and no real relationship can survive without honesty and trust. The pain of losing the people he cared about the most taught him a painful but valuable lesson. He learned that no matter how difficult the truth may be, it is always better than living a life of deceit. Lies may seem harmless at first, but they slowly destroy trust, and once that trust is broken, it is very difficult to rebuild. David's regret and loneliness were his constant companions after the truth came to light. The damage was done, and he knew he could never undo the harm he had caused. So, what can we learn from David's story? The main lesson is that honesty is the foundation of all relationships, whether they are romantic, familial, or friendships. When we hide the truth or live in deception, we create a barrier between ourselves and others. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's hard to fix. If we want to build strong and meaningful relationships, we must be honest, even when it's difficult. It's better to face the truth and deal with the consequences than to hide behind lies and risk losing everything. In our own lives, we should always strive to be truthful, not only with others, but with ourselves. Being honest allows us to build trust, maintain healthy relationships, and live with integrity. It's important to remember that while telling the truth may be uncomfortable at times, it will ultimately bring us peace and the respect of those around us. Now that you've listened to this story, congratulations! You've improved your English listening and understanding skills. Keep practicing, and remember that learning a language is a journey that requires patience and effort. Now, here's a small quiz to test your understanding. Question: what did David lose in the end? A. His friends, B. both his wives and their trust. Please comment with your answer or B below. It will be great to hear your thoughts, and don't forget to share your answer. Also, if you enjoyed this story and want more content like this, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Your support motivates us to continue creating great content for you. And if you want to help us improve even more, please consider donating. We're working hard to provide you with the best content, and any contribution will help keep this channel running. We're doing this for free to help you learn English, and your support makes a big difference. Thank you.